That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about 57 Seconds, the sixth film directed by Rusty Cundieff, which is being released courtesy of The Avenue Entertainment, September 29th, 2023.
I'm familiar with one of Rusty's movies, right?
Yeah, I'm actually quite a big fan of his debut, Fear of a Black Hat, a mockumentary, and his follow-up film, Tales from the Hood. I think that's a classic. He's directed 2 sequels that are of maybe a lesser degree of impact. And then you are a film, or at least a fan of the soundtrack of his third film, Sprung.
I like Sprung. Mm-hmm. So this movie, when a tech blogger lands an interview with a tech guru and stops an attack on him, he finds a mysterious ring that takes him back 57 seconds into the past. What is your pull quote?
Oh boy.
Oh.
The title more fittingly refers to the amount of time the audience will take to clock this film's bargain basement deportment, which is ultimately a failed effort thanks to a schlocky script overstuffed with fussy subplots the film's budget clearly could not properly encompass.
Okay, mine is 57 Seconds succeeds in being a rom-com sci-fi suspense thriller action film that's so bad it's mildly entertaining. Wow. I don't know what to say about this movie.
Okay,
I didn't hate it. It was a fun experience, but this shit is ridiculous.
I didn't hate it, but it's not good. I think maybe the script needed to be revised when they finally were able to figure out how much of a budget they could get. However, based on who's in front of and behind the camera, it's a really interesting mix of people, including the director. The script was co-written by Macon Blair, who's probably best known as an actor starring in Jeremy Saulnier's films Blue Ruin and Green Room, but whose own film, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, won Sundance the year. So, and it's based on a short story by a very notable British science fiction Western genre writer named E.C. Tubb. And this feels very much like a Twilight Zone Night Gallery kind of short story scenario. But, and then based on who stars in it, you'd think that, I don't know, it would be different than what it is.
Okay, the story is that Josh Hutcherson plays a tech blogger who is trying to...
named Franklin Fox.
Who's trying to score the interview of a lifetime with this tech guru played by Morgan Freeman.
Anton Burrell.
So he wiggles his way into this high-profile presentation Morgan Freeman is giving. And during this presentation, there's an attempted suicide against Morgan Freeman. And Josh Hutcherson sort of stops it. And during the melee, Morgan Freeman drops a ring. And it's important to know that Morgan Freeman was there to introduce the newest version of his Fitbit. It's called the Tri-Band. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to have technology that keeps people healthy without medication, which didn't quite make sense to me. It's
like Steve Jobs and Obamacare.
Well, because basically it just sounds like, this device will remind you. It not only reminds you to exercise and eat well, but it changes your thoughts so that you want to do it, which in and of itself is interesting. That could be a movie on its own. Uh-huh. But the ring Morgan Freeman drops, we find out, has the ability to time travel back 57 seconds. So then the movie becomes Josh Hutcherson having this ability, and he uses it to woo this woman he's fond of, played by Lovie Simone.
Jala.
So that's the rom-com part of it. And then he's also using this technology to gamble at a casino to get a bunch of money. So while he's doing these things, we also find out that Josh Hutcherson's character has been writing under an alias about this pharmaceutical CEO played by Germann. Greg Germann.
Sig Thorensen.
And it's very much like the Statler family, where this pharmaceutical CEO has created some drug that people are getting addicted to and dying from it. And Josh Hutcherson's sister died from this drug. So then it feels kind of like a Charles Bronson movie where Josh Hutcherson wants revenge on this guy. Mm-hmm. And he wants to do it not with fisticuffs, but by exposing him. So, but probably the strangest part, well, there are 2 things that make no sense to me. But one of them is that, scratch that. the pharmaceutical rep seeks out Josh Hutcherson because he thinks that he's aware of him writing like stories about his company that are bad. So he thinks that this kid could probably turn the tide and change like the direction of the PR. So he offers him all this money to write articles, like to basically like say that he's a good guy. But Josh Hutcherson ends up exposing the pharmaceutical guy because he gets proof and evidence that he knew that his drug was addictive and that people would die. So that causes the pharmaceutical guy to kidnap Josh Hutcherson, but in the process, they're like on a plane that crashes. The pharmaceutical guy dies, but Josh Hutcherson lives. Somehow
through the plane crash.
He's reunited with his girlfriend or fiance, Lovie Simone's character. And then guess who's at the crash site? Morgan Freeman. And we find out that Morgan Freeman, all this time, he knew that Josh had this ring with the time travel ability. He let him keep it because it was a test to see how it would work, but mainly because he's trying to find someone to partner with to help him develop this technology. But then Josh Hutcherson says, no, the world doesn't need time travel. He destroys the ring, and the way Morgan Freeman reacts is like this was the only ring he can make, because apparently it uses some sort of crystals that he didn't really have access to. I don't know.
You would have made at least two.
The end.
You would have two. There, as you were recounting the plot, there's actually a lot that's familiar with that new short by Wes Anderson, The Wonderful World of Henry Sugar, and the Benedict Cumberbatch character who develops a system of being able to cheat casinos in the same way and make all this money.
Oh, right. I'm just going to go through my notes because there's so much going on. The opening of the film is an assault of information.
That's exactly what I said. You are assaulted with a barrage of omniscient narration from Josh Hutcherson, who's not a very good narrator.
He's no Morgan Freeman.
He sounds very disinterested in the fact. But we learn about Greg Germann and Morgan Freeman in this conference that's about to happen, and it's just like.
Then we cut to so the way Josh wiggles his way into the conference is he gets a job as like an usher. Or like
scanning tickets
or something, and that's where he meets Lovie Simone. But the dialogue during that opening, we get lines like, learn your freaking job, dickwad. Next time scan the bracelets, not the babes. He thinks I would F him to keep this shit job. I think I may have met my future wife. I mean, this is the kind of dialogue we're getting in this like very short amount of time.
And the future wife thing is told to his friend that's helping him gain access, who does the... Like, what would you call that?
He's like a hacker who also controls the Jumbotron at the stadium.
That's happening, but he's hiding out in the bathroom giving Josh Hutcherson his fake little Fitbit. And he's like, love, greed, revenge, court them at your peril.
We need to remember this character because we only really see him at the beginning and at the end. And I thought for sure that character was gay. But then towards the end, when he sees footage of Josh being like drugged and like having sex with prostitutes, then he says like, oh, you didn't invite me? And I was so confused, like, oh, because you want to have sex with Josh or the ladies? I don't know.
The 57 seconds, it's so arbitrary. Even as a title, it's not good. How many films would have measurements of time like this? 88 minutes, 15 minutes. But The Ring is basically kind of like what that mechanism in the film Galaxy Quest, the Omega-13 that goes back, that reverses 13 seconds, and it's enough time to eliminate one devastating mistake.
Also, The Ring is ugly, and it looks cheap, like out of like the gumball machine. And then the tri-band is huge. It looks so uncomfortable. And then I hated the name of it because I kept thinking the Try Guys.
Or Trident Gum.
Or Trident Gum, Trident Layers. But the band is huge. This is like future technology, and this thing looks like the most uncomfortable set of bangle bracelets. I didn't know. Which also made it look cheap.
That said, there are interesting moments because, especially as Franklin becomes more obsessed with making things happen for him, like he becomes, and he draws, of course, the parallels with the drug that took down his
Franklin is Josh.
Sister. Yes, but there's one scene where he has to get access to a safe. That is pretty good.
Well, we need to talk about those moments, but I wanted to talk about when Morgan Freeman first meets Josh Hutcherson. First of all, he's like a Steve Jobs type person. And he just rolls up in an Escalade with his one assistant who looks like something out of Star Wars.
What's
right?
that character's name? Ingram?
It's so laughably ridiculous.
It's bad because he's so distracting.
Because he's supposed to be like a humanoid who's cloaked with like he looks like a deep sea jellyfish in the face. I don't understand. And then when Morgan Freeman notices Josh's character hiding behind a curtain, Josh starts talking, and Morgan Freeman shushes him with his finger.
He puts his finger dead on his lips. Ingram needed to have a personality. He has no dialogue. But what if Ingram had the vibe of Sheila from the Wild Wild Country?
I mean, something. Then we're
Do you
still
remember that person?
No, I didn't look it up. But Josh stopping the assassination of Morgan Freeman, he uses like when you were in school and the teacher would wheel out the TV on that cart. It looks like that, and he pushes it into this person trying to kill Morgan Freeman. That looked real. The cinematography and the special effects are, I think, subpar. I'm sorry.
They're pretty bad. Yeah, they didn't have the That's why it's like we should have. I'm sure you're going to go into this, but they should have cut out the opioid crisis angle altogether.
Well, yeah,
or kept it as a subtext for the Hutcherson character, but those are the most campy elements, and we spend too much time, and you could have spent more money on.
Well, let's talk about that now. Yeah, the better story, I think, working with what they had, we should have eliminated the entire sort of like revenge against the pharmaceutical guy and just have it be this tech blogger finds this technology that offers time travel. So he's doing all these things, but then we find out that the tech guru maybe is using this for nefarious reasons and is trying to convince Josh's character to do bad things. And in the end, Josh decides to destroy the technology.
And thinks that he's a prime candidate because he is an activist motivated to do the right thing. What would he do with this kind of technology?
I think for the budget and the abilities of everyone involved, I think it would have made sense to just focus on that because it feels so busy. And then I don't know. I liked Greg Germann well enough. He reminded me of that other actor.
Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
He also gives me Kevin Bacon-y vibes too.
Sure. But I think trying to present him as this billionaire pharmaceutical guy, it just didn't work. The house they're in, a lot of close-up shots. His assistant, this beautiful woman, her office.
Rene, played by Bevin Brew. That's probably the most entertaining scene to me, though, is when Hutcherson has to get through her to get the code to the safe.
So... yeah, but her office looks real rinky-dink, and her safe looks like something you'd buy at Costco, and then the printer on top of it looks like the cheapest printer. But I think the best moments in the film are when Josh Hutcherson's character is using the time travel to fix things, like trying to figure out how to have sex with Lovie Simone, or trying to get this code to the safe. I know that after 3 times it gets old, but I think those were the best moments in the film.
I agree. But then it's like, oh, it feels like a really good episode in those moments of like Quantum Leap.
Yes, and I do like Josh Hutcherson on screen. I don't think he's he's not like what you would consider like a leading man, I guess.
He's okay.
But I thought he did fine. I thought everyone did fine enough. Fine
enough. Lovie Simone is really trying to sell this character, but she ends up feeling really aggressive about her love for this man.
She does, and I really like her because I love Greenleaf, and she's so beautiful to the point where when Josh is very assertive about asking Lovie out. And she's very yeah, let's go. I think he's a cute guy, and I wouldn't say no. And I also don't look like Lovie Simone, but I was a little shocked that she was so into him.
Yes, I was as well.
But she is trying very hard, or the dialogue seems like they're almost trying to make her comedic. Because when they first go back to his place after their first date to hook up, he's trying to excuse his the condition of his apartment and the dialogue.
We need to talk about that. Yeah, keep going.
I live with my aunt. She steals out of my purse, and everything in her house smells like cigarettes. This is the kind of dialogue this poor girl's having to recite.
And she's navigating it well enough, but then that's where I think you made the comment, this would have made a much better comedy. That's
actually my next note, that I think seeing those two together with this technology, I feel like it'd make a funny... comedic rom-com.
Can't you imagine one of the Wayans brothers trying to have sex with some woman and she keeps seeing weird little things around his apartment? that take her out of the mood.
But I think there is isn't there a movie about a guy who gets like a bunch of chances to like do it right?
Yes, there's many movies.
Yeah,
kind of like that. But it's weird how it's explained in this. Is he's got like women's purses in his closet, and there's a framed picture of this white woman.
And we find out that the woman is actually his sister who died from the drug.
His twin sister, but her framed picture is on his nightstand next to his bed. That's what he sees when he opens his laptop. It's her picture.
And you're probably like using your laptop to find porn to masturbate to, or your sister's in the background, or I don't know. But I thought Josh Hutcherson and Lovie Simone, their chemistry was cute.
Fine.
And I feel like it would have worked really well in like a comedic rom-com. Mm-hmm. But that's not what we got.
That's not what we got.
Their relationship moves so fast.
Oh, it's hyperspeed. That's the most science fiction thing about this.
Oh, speaking of the screensaver, when Lovie sees the lady, she goes, "It's okay to have a past, but is it in the past?" And then after their first date,
57 seconds in the
Josh, like the next time he sees her, he's bought her this really expensive like art kit. And he tells her, like, "I haven't had anyone in my life for a while. What's important to you is important to me." Like, they are moving so fast over a one-night stand. Mm-hmm. And then I guess they work together.
Buy a house. Yeah.
They buy a house after he starts making all this money stealing from the casino. But the assistant, so
Rene.
Mm-hmm. So now that Josh is working for Greg's character, he's like, we got to figure out how because they can see that he can kind of predict the future because he's going in the past, right? So they decide, let's take him to a casino, and we have all these cameras. We can figure it out, but they can't. But that ended with a really weird moment, because now, this is the other thing that didn't make sense to me. So we don't know why someone was trying to assassinate Morgan Freeman. I thought that was super weird. Then we're at this casino where someone's trying to assassinate Greg Germann's character, which does make sense because he's responsible for thousands of deaths. But then Josh Hutcherson goes back in time to stop the assassination.
Yeah.
Which didn't make sense to me.
I don't understand. You
hate this man. You want to expose him. Why didn't you let someone kill him so that you could go on about your business of exposing his...
Yeah, and because you still could have exposed
right.
his nefarious activities. Also, even though you would expose that, doesn't mean it's going to stop the opioid crisis or people from prescribing that medication. Like, you have to cut off the road a little further down. And then there's this black man that... is a henchman for
Greg's character,
for Sig Thorensen, named Calvert, played by Sammi Rotibi, and his connection to the plot makes little sense to me.
It's like he's employed as a fixer who's kind of like, yeah, but he doesn't seem to do much. I don't know. His only job is really to get Josh to Greg. Mm-hmm. So the way Lovie finds out about the ring is Josh misses her like art gallery opening because Greg Germann's character has drugged him and like sent him to some prostitutes to get blackmail video. So when he gets back home, Lovie's mad, and Morgan Freeman's there like, "Oh, you missed your girl's art gallery opening, but I thought her work was amazing, so I bought all of it." So now she's independently wealthy. And then Lovie's mad. And they're standing by the pool. She slaps him. And then I thought also really crunchy cinematography. They fall into the pool. And then as she's trying to like not drown, I guess, she touches the ring. Mm-hmm. So I guess like because she touched it, now she sees herself go back 57 seconds. And then he has to explain to her. That whole scene was real crunchy. Mm-hmm. It was real crunchy.
And then she very quickly puts together like, "Oh, you manipulated me."
And then she says, "Our whole life is a lie." Yeah. How long have y'all been together? It seems like they've been together a week.
The line should have been, "Our whole month has been a lie."
Our whole month has been a lie. Mm-hmm. I don't want to keep shitting on this movie because I did think it was, I mean, again, I think it's so bad that it's amusing and tolerable.
It is amusing and tolerable, so it's not like a total schlock fest, really. It's just odd that different choices weren't made to utilize everyone to the best of their abilities. And
this movie is as rough as this review is as rough as this movie. I'm sorry.
I think it's fine, but it's not a good film. I don't know. Just
what would you give it?
1.
I would give it 1.5 out of 5. But I mean, if you see it on streaming and it's free and you're in the mood, I think you might find it amusing. Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.